J3.
Yes, yes.
There's like
Oh,
one level 2 and minus. Yeah, so am I supposed to turn that?
I've turned it up a tiny bit, so this is acceptable.
like,
Okay.
it's probably. Yes, I didn't have this for any reason. And there's like, we always talk about bath towels and pool. There's never 4 towels. There's the lowest. There's 6 towels in my room. Yeah, I know.
We went to this lake walk staircase, and then that's why I took this wallet so I can use the gallon. We just decided not to. What did you guys?
Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning again, everyone. This is your 5-minute warning. We will be starting in 5 minutes. Yes, I know. I'm not sure. But we have quorum, so we're starting.
Alright. This works like there's no gain on this one.
Yeah.
And that works.
Okay, I'm gonna pretend I
Good morning, everyone. We will get started if everybody is ready. Welcome, everybody, to our 2023 Speed Skating BC AGM. You see on the agenda, as was brought forward, it does say 10. I think we posted before it's 9. We will be beginning because we have quorum. I'd like to welcome everybody. Again, I would like to acknowledge that we are standing on the traditional and unceded territories of the Secwepemc peoples. We'll call this meeting to order at 9:14. The adoption of the rules of order, the agenda as presented here. We do have one addition to the agenda other than clarifying that it's the 2023 AGM and we are starting at 9:14. We have the addition, item 12, after the approval of annual membership fees. We have a special resolution for changes of the bylaws, which needs to be separated out from the policy ratification. So that will come onto the agenda following item 11. With that being said, I will ask for a motion to accept the agenda as presented, or as amended. Thank you, Janet. Seconded by James. I'm just going to slow down everything. Motion by Janet Lacusta from Richmond. Seconded by James McIntosh, Prince George. This is a test for me. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Following, we will be following the Robert's Rules of Order for this AGM. Need adoption or motion to accept the Robert's Rules of Order for this AGM. Alana Lawhead from Kamloops, seconded by David Wagner of Burnaby. All in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carried. Okay, establishment of quorum and confirmation of voting delegates. I'm going to go through the list. I know we've all checked in, but we do this several times to make sure that we are doing fine. Do we have voting member from Burnaby? And you are carrying all 6 votes? Correct. I'm going to have to sit down for this one. Do we have a representative from Dawson Creek? And you are carrying all 3 votes? Esquimalt. Do we have a representative from Esquimalt? We do. And you are carrying all 5 votes? Correct. Fort St. James. We do not have a delegate from Fort St. James. Fort St. John, we have delegates. You are carrying the 6 votes. However, you're carrying the 6 votes. Thank you. We have no independent voters today. Kamloops, we have representatives from Kamloops. And you are carrying all 6 votes? Correct. Kelowna, we have representative from Kelowna. Is my microphone working? Okay. And you're carrying all 6 votes. We do not have a representative from Kimberley. We do not have a representative from Langley. We do not have representation from Mackenzie. Matsqui. Represent from Matsqui. You are carrying both votes. Thank you. Mission, we have representation from Mission. You are carrying all 5 votes. But you have, between you, you have all 5 votes. Peninsula, we do not have representation from Peninsula. Poco, we have, and you are carrying all 6 votes. Prince George, and you are carrying all 6 votes. Richmond, and you are carrying all 6 votes. We do not have representation from Ridge Meadows. We have representation from Salmon Arm, and you are carrying all 5 votes. We do not have representation from Sardis. We do not have representation from Vancouver. We have representation from Vanderhoof, and you are carrying all 5 votes. We do not have representation from Vernon, and we do not have representation from Williams Lake. Correct. That is quorum established. I did? I do, yes. Thank you. That is establishment of quorum, and we have confirmed the voting delegates. If I could have a motion to accept this establishment of quorum and for the meeting as outlined in bylaw 5.2. Emily, I was going to say Emily. Emily Clapstein from Kamloops. Seconded by Corey Benny from Fort St. John. All in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carried. Corey. Sorry, Carol. Please let me know, and I'll slow down. As this has already started, though, we would like to appoint a recording secretary for the meeting, and I have asked Carol Dugan of our board to be the recording secretary for this morning. I'm also going to appoint scrutineers for the meeting, and that will be Chris Acton and Valerie Linton will be the scrutineers for the voting process this morning. I approved the agenda. Yeah. So the minutes from the 2022 annual general meeting were posted online. Were there any amendments that you felt needed to be added? Any questions? I will then ask for a motion to approve the minutes from the 2022 annual general meeting as presented. James, thank you. Seconded by Barb Beck from POCO. James McIntosh, Prince George, Barb from POCO. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. None opposed, Carol. Thank you. Moving on to the report from the Board of Directors. That is posted online and is right in front of me. I will give a brief reading of the board report. Continuing their term on the board for the 2022 season was myself as president, Janet Lacusta as secretary, Carol Dugan as director, and Dan Bastianson as director. Re-elected for this past season was Scott Stewart, our vice president, Alexander Tay, our treasurer, and Kira McGuire, who is absent this weekend as director. There were no new members on the board, leaving one director spot vacant. The board met monthly with occasional ad hoc meetings for a total of 19 times. Monthly meetings included an SSBC operational update from Valerie Linton, our executive director, with quarterly strategic goal scorecard, along with recurring review of monthly and year-to-date financials. The board rendered decisions on competitions, committees, policies, bylaws, and operations. There were 3 committees of the board, and each were active this past season: finance, governance, and nominations. The finance committee, consisting of Alexander Tay, our treasurer, myself as president, Scott Stewart as vice president, and Valerie Linton as the executive director, met as required. The committee focused on budget preparation, amendments, and risk analysis. The governance committee, chaired by myself as president, included Valerie Linton, executive director, Carol Dugan as director, and Kira McGuire as director. We met monthly to update, edit, and advise the board on proposed policy changes. A policy review plan was implemented to fulfill our biannual policy review requirement. The nominations committee, chaired by Scott Stewart, our vice president, began work in January, preparing for the elections at the annual general meeting. The strategic plan was in its final year this season, and alignment was important to gauge our success in reaching benchmarks. Within the strategic plan structure, the board primarily focuses on organizational readiness, and this year worked towards the goals of policy review, long-term budgetary planning, and the creation of a safe sport environment. The board was involved in initial stages of the 2023-27 strategic planning process, which will be finalized in the coming months. And finally, I would like to thank this year's board for their commitment to our sport and the processes of the board. It was a pleasure to work with you. Okay, we're going to move on to approval of the financial statements for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2023. I'm not sure if this presentation, Valerie, is you or it's Alex. It'd be you. Would you like to stand?
Can everybody hear me if I just speak up without the microphone? I think I'm pretty loud.
Well, we'll have to use this because we
All right, great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Before I go over the financial statements, I just want to thank Jody Peshko, our bookkeeper, Valerie Linden, our executive director, Shane Forcier, our auditor, and of course, Kerry Ray and Scott Stewart as part of our financial review committee. First, the good news. The good news is that we are in a strong financial position, and our independent review has found there are no discrepancies or anything abnormal in our finances. In other words, it's a pass. If I could draw your attention to the statement of financial position, that's basically our financial snapshot. And the main categories, of course, are the assets, which equal the liabilities in our net assets. If you look, at our cash position, it is strong at over $400,000. And we have some receivables as well, and some inventory. If you're wondering what the inventory is, it's primarily the metals, as you can see on note 1, which will be towards the back. Now, if we go further down to the assets, primarily assets are the long-term capital assets, which consists of suits, event equipment, and the website. And if you look at the here we are, the third from the last page in your packet, it will show the capital assets, which shows the training equipment, the office equipment, and the software. Now, the software is depreciated at the highest rate, which is 55%, declining balance. And so that's why, you can see the drop from 13,000 down to 9,200. And the liabilities are basically to our contractors and, service providers. It's pretty straightforward. If we go down to the net assets, if we look at the internally restricted funds, that is comprised of our reserve fund, which is on the second to last page, the capital fund, and the Canada Winter Games Fund. If you move on to the statement of changes in net assets, you will see that our net assets beginning were $258,296, and we have what's called, according to the Societies Act, the accounting for nonprofits of a surplus of revenue over expenditures, which is a negative 62,422. Now, instead of thinking it so much as a loss, I prefer to think of it as a budgeted over expenditure, because it was expected, it was budgeted for, because we had a much bigger spend due to the increased amount of services that we have provided to our membership. And it still leaves us in a very strong financial position of over $400,000 in cash. And finally, if you go down there, if you take the net assets beginning and you subtract the changes, you will find the net assets of $195,874. I don't want to bore you too much, but we have the statement of operations, which, if you look at Schedule 1, it will break down the sources of revenue. And Schedule 1 will be on your very last page. And it shows a community gaming grant, the membership fees, the merchandise, sales, and miscellaneous, Those are basically our swag items that you can purchase on the website. So that's a plug. Let's make sure that everybody's aware and the membership is aware that they can purchase a lot of SSBC merchandise. We have the coaches and officials development courses, the fees from there, other grants, registration fees, sanction fees, and of course the Via Sport funding. So those are our sources of revenue. Expenses are basically, as you might expect, administration, awards and recognition, facilities and equipment, GST expense, insurance. You'll find that the insurance went down because there was some coverage that we didn't really feel was necessary. We had marketing communications, professional development, travel and meetings, and finally wages and salaries. And that comprises the deficiency of revenues over expenses. And that brings us to our statement of cash flows. The cash provided by operating activities, of course, if you go back to the previous page as mentioned, that was the budgeted shortfall of $50,384. And then we have the changes in non-working capital, which is our accounts receivable, GST receivable, which is negative because we haven't received it yet, inventory, accounts payable, and deferred revenue. We had no investing activities, and that leads us to the net increase in cash of $49,337. So if you look at the beginning cash position, we had $351,000, and our ending cash position of $400,709. And the rest of the documents are the supporting statements for the financial statements that I've just presented. If there are any questions, both myself and Valerie Linton would be happy to answer them.
The budget is approved by the board. We present the budget yesterday. We had financial for. The budget is the board's responsibility, so the board passes the budget, and we presented it yesterday in the how we pay for it and how we're using our funds. The AGM passes the review engagement from the previous year.
Are there any other questions? Oh, sorry, go ahead. Are there any other questions?
Okay, thank you very much, Alex. That being completed, I will ask for a motion to accept the financial statements for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2023. Alana Lawhead did motion. I'm sorry, Poco, I forget your name.
Mark.
Mark from Poco?
Yes.
Second? All in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carried. Secondly, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Kenneth Forcier, CPA Inc. as the auditor for the 23-24 fiscal year. They have been pleased to work with us and are happy to continue. So if I could have a motion to accept them as our auditor for this coming season. Kate North, Prince George, or Fort St. John, seconded by James McIntosh, Prince George. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried, thanks. None opposed, Carol. Okay, that moves us on to the approval of our membership fees. So the membership fee structure, we have made a commitment to the membership that we will give 3 years notice of membership fee increases. So that's what this is. If you look at the proposed fee membership document in front of you, we are only looking at the 26-27 fee increase. The rest was passed at previous AGMs. So you see for this coming year, we had approximate 5% increase. For the year after, 0, after that 5, and we're proposing a 2% increase of speed skating BC fees over in 26-27 over 25-26. So you can see the numbers there. I will remind everyone one more time that we do not have any influence over when Speed Skating Canada increases their fees. We just pass along that information as soon as we receive it. Any questions or comments? Trish? The club affiliation fee will be instituted this coming season, yes. David? Yeah, that's a good point. We haven't done the club affiliation fee since the before times, as I like to call them. Pardon me? They send them an invoice. The club affiliation fee is the fee that the clubs pay as a member of Speed Skating BC. Speed Skating BC pays an affiliation fee to Speed Skating Canada. Our clubs pay an affiliation fee. I think in the past it's been $100, usually invoiced in October. Yeah. Yeah, that's the current structure.
And it will be $100 in the upcoming season.
It is $100 in the current budget, yes. Everybody laughs. Transfer things. Any other questions about the proposed fees, membership fee increases? Okay, then I will ask for a motion to accept the 26-27 fee increases as presented. Trish Archibald from Kamloops, seconded by Kate North, Fort St. John. All in favor? Any opposed? All in favor, Carol? Okay, we are moving on to policy ratification. We have a lot here. We've had a very busy season for this. Valerie's going to go over the policy. We're going to, I hope everybody had a chance. Were we going to? Is there? However, if people want to see what we're doing. Okay, it's whatever people want. If we can do that, yeah. No, they're on the website. Yeah. Right. Yeah, because we had the open house or group policy review with our membership, so there were some changes that came out of that for sure. Oh, I did make a mistake because I'm looking at my script and not my agenda. I apologize, everybody. After the approval of annual membership fees was the special resolution for the bylaw change. Valerie's not listening. So Valerie, we have the bylaw change first.
There we go. How's that? Can we hear? attach it here. Maybe if, just right here would probably be good. Can it pick up? I just want to make sure people online can hear. That's good? Okay. Oh, sorry.
Can you make it bigger for our old eyes?
For sure. We're
Thank
getting
you.
there. Just getting there a little bit set up here. I'm just gonna, I have to get my mouse thing. Sorry.
Thank you. I have the wrong
Corey, you're a sweetheart. Now I don't feel so bad. You know? It's like, no, I can't even read that.
I'm glad to hear that because I'm like, it looks cute.
Oh, I can't read it and I'm sitting in front of it. All right, everyone can hear me? There we are, and unfortunately I took the highlight out. So basically the change in the bylaws was term limits.
There's a couple other clarifications later.
Shoot, I took all the highlights out.
It's 6.10.
There we go. Thank you, Carrie, for remembering that.
No, it's 6 to 10.
Oh, I did look at the highlight. There we are. Excellent. Okay. So the so this was in regards to a number of basically on good governance. A request to change our so that we have terms of office, term limits for our board members. Sorry, brain.
I'll do this.
You do this. My brain is not there yet.
Okay, good governance, term limits. Something that's been asked of us from our funders, and it came down from national sport organizations. We did not have term limits within our association. So in alignment with best practice, what we're proposing is that all directors, so every elected position within our association, board and committees would have, this is board, committees and policy. So 3 consecutive 2-year terms for a maximum of 6 years. After a 2-year, after a 2-year up, is it on? Okay, one more time. In alignment with best practices of good governance, the board is suggesting that we add term limits to our elected positions. Serve up to 3 consecutive 2-year terms. It is clarified that after a 2-year absence, you could rejoin the board. So this is the first point in our bylaw change. We went over this during the policy review meeting. If there's any questions right now, there's another small change in the bylaws a little bit further down, and that's just a clarification within our bylaws. We've kind of moved from an operational board to more of a governance advising board, and there was some information regarding the treasurer and the secretary's roles that were not in sync with how we run business. The secretary does not do all the communications for the association, and the treasurer does not keep the books. They advise over both of those roles. So it should be, so the secretary, now the terms within the bylaws, they ensure the notice of meetings are issued, and they keep minutes of all meetings. And the treasurer is oversight.
Did I miss it?
Oversight of financial matters to maintain compliance with the Societies Act. There are more within the terms of reference, but those are their terms within the bylaws. So those are the proposed changes within our bylaws. Any questions? Yes, Trish? Yeah, so we're doing business as. So we are officially BC Speed Skating Association, but we are, through all of our documentation, we are the BC Speed Skating Association doing business as Speed Skating BC.
So now when you change bylaws, you have to say that to the Societies Act.
We do.
Why didn't you change your name at the same time?
there would be also a number of changes in terms of having to change all our financials, and it's a very large job to change. We have to change everything with the government, change all those things. So if we're doing business as, it's...
We were legally advised that it's easier to do doing business as. Great question, though. Thank you, Trish. Any other questions regarding the bylaw changes? Terry?
Yeah, so in the unlikely event that we have this situation where a person kind of reaches the end of their term,
Yep.
and nobody is either nominated or stepping forward to fill that role, does the board still have the ability to appoint an individual, and could it be that same person that was filling that role up to that point?
It's a really great question, Terry. Through the visiting, I can't look at Terry. Through the visiting yesterday, if you had come to my governance table, we would have talked about risk management committee that will be in place this season, and that's a really great question, Terry. And I'd like to say that we can work as an association to have better clarity through the roles that we have within our association and understand the value that you can contribute and that can come back to you, and that we will be in a position where we can have elections for positions on the board. I would really like that. That is my goal, should I be reelected today, over the next 2 years, to kind of make the whole process more robust. But I mean, the board does have the power to do those things, yes. Yes. Well, you know, we have a requirement in our bylaws, too, to have a minimum number of people on the board. So, you know, we do our best to fulfill all of our obligations, and sometimes you've got to decide which obligation you're going to fill, because you can't do both. Neither one of them are happening, and they're countermanding each other. So, that's an excellent question. Trish?
One more thing that you mentioned yesterday.
Yep.
You can do your 3 2-year terms on the board, but
Yep.
then you can actually go on to a committee without the 2-year absence.
Yes. So the information with committees is in the policies, because committees are not part of the bylaw structure. They are the way we decide to do business. It's not a bylaw structure thing. You could do 6 years on the board, and you could do 6 years on sport development. You could then do 6 years on whatever, and then go back to the board. Yes. Thank you. Great questions. Any other questions? Okay. With that, I will ask for a motion to accept the special resolution for bylaw changes as presented. Trish, I'll motion, and I'll take Terry to second, because they're the two that asked all the questions. Good questions. All in favor? Any opposed? All in favor. Special resolutions are a tough one, because you need 2/3, not a half. So, moving to policy.
There we go. Do you want me to? I can take over from now.
Yes.
Sorry. Now I've got settled. There we
Okay.
are. Okay. So this is the very large policy and procedures manual number 1, which has all of our. So this is section A. Changes are that we have. We removed the. This is actually a procedure, so it doesn't really need approval, but this is more for information. The only thing that we require votes on is actually policy changes. But in terms of procedures, we removed the procedure for the for revising the bylaws, because that's actually in the bylaws. And we also had some cleanup in terms of still removing Speed Skating BC, because it does say at the beginning that we are writing things in as Speed Skating BC. In terms of policies and procedures, we had some updates in terms of reflecting our current procedures, which is just that the governance committee reviews the changes and then presents them to the board for any bylaw, policy or procedure changes. The actual, this also was just clarifying wording. And in terms of organizational structure, this is the big change within this area. We moved the Risk Management Committee from an operating committee to a committee of the board. And this was to provide greater oversight within the risk management structure, and as we reviewed our committee's terms of reference, it was better decided that it would be a committee of the board. So those are the changes within Section A.
I'm going to call a motion to do each one as we go. There's quite a lot, and I don't want you all to feel like we're like, okay, we made all these changes, just say yes. So I'm going to ask for motions after each section. So that was the Section A of the PP Manual number 1. If I could have a motion to accept those changes as presented. Kate from Fort St. John, motion. David Wagner from Burnaby to second. All in favor? Any opposed? All in favor, none opposed. Carol, thank you. Valerie?
For Section B, changes are within putting some change for gender-neutral language, rather than using he, she, you're just using there. The changing to put risk management as a committee of the board. And the addition of this clause that the board may at its discretion convene a committee for special reasons. And that would be, like for instance,
We did it during COVID.
Yeah. So hopefully not for a pandemic again. And then there's a number of small changes here where we just cleaning up wording where we said virtually rather conference call, video call, electronic, basically all meetings held virtually. I think it's common language, so just changing to common language. That's those changes. And that concludes the changes in Section B.
Questions on B? If I could have a motion to accept the changes. Emily Barnsdale from Mission first, motion. Corey Benny from Fort St. John second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried, none opposed. C.
So in Section C, which is, again, talking about committees, you'll notice there's some changes in green and some changes in yellow. The changes in green came out as a result of our policy and procedures meeting that we had, our consultation that we originally had on this documentation. So this is the change in operating committees, removing risk management committee, and as we moved it to the board. In this was the
term limits are mentioned there for committees.
Yeah. Yes, there we go. We're trying to remember all these changes. And so these are updating for the standing committees and updating for the terms of office. And it does directly say here, time served in the elected bodies will be considered separately within different term limits. This is also clarifying language just in here to agree to, and this is removing the definition there of the work of the treasurer, and it's updating. This is updating for how we actually do procedures. So a representative from each standing committee will be part of the operational planning committee for the upcoming year. This change came out just allowing that committee members can also, committee members can also call a meeting. So it's not only the chair that can call a meeting. In terms of the procedures here, we're also updating to virtually rather than having all the wording of all the different types of meetings. We're just saying it's virtually. And also stipulating that minutes must be made available to the board within 21 days of the meeting. And updating the terminology here for video call, conference call, blah, 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 blah.
Questions, concerns on Section C? Okay. Yes, Patrick.
I can say something. Is there any concern that being able to hear the other participants, should that just be understanding it, because some people might not be able to hear
To hear?
as long as they can understand it?
I do believe that's in there.
There's somewhere where in all meetings held virtually, everyone should be able to hear and be heard. I know that is written.
Yeah, it is in there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's right there.
Did
Right
I
there.
miss it? Yeah.
Yep, number 5 there. In all meetings held virtually, all those participating must be able to hear other participants and be heard.
Like people who might have like hearing issues. Is that like?
Well, I think that's covered under that, right? If they can't hear, if they have hearing issues, they can't hear, and so we have to ensure that they can.
We actually use Google Meet and there is closed captioning in it.
Yeah. No, that's great,
But
Patrick.
that's a
Thank you.
good consideration, you know.
Yeah.
Perhaps look at the writing.
Okay, section C. If there are no further questions, I will ask for a motion to accept PP1 section C as presented. Alana Kamloops to motion, second by James McIntosh of Prince George. All in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carried. E, we have nothing in D, right to E.
Right to E. There's a large number of changes in section E. So, and this is coming out of the discipline and complaints policy. So a major rewrite of the discipline and complaints policy, and that's to align it with Speed Skating Canada's discipline and complaints policy. As we're part of the Speak Up process, it was very important that the case managers, who are an external third party, have a very clear pathway of how we handle discipline and complaints. So it made sense to have our policy be in very similar terminology to the Speed Skating Canada one, so it was a straight flow through and made good clarity in terms of our policy so that it's not confusing. So as a result of that, we are combining, we had a separate discipline policy, we had a separate complaints policy, so it's removing those and putting them into one. So you'll see here in this next section that there's a number of changes, big, huge slash of everything's gone, but they're replaced by E12, which we're doing as a separate motion because E12 is such a fundamental piece of policy. So again, items noted in green are ones that took place during the consultation process, and we'll zip on through. These are definitions of different types of members. It's kind of more in the end here. So this is the harassment policy. So basically, as you can see, the harassment policy is now included in the discipline and complaints policy. So, but it does start off with that harassment. Basically, it's the first step in a harassment issue is to confront the harasser. So that we left in there, and then it says after that to go to the discipline and complaints policy. And that's removing the harassment policy. The reason why much of the harassment policy is taken out is, as you can see here, it talks about reading through the sanctions, et cetera, et cetera. Those are all in the discipline and complaints policy. In terms of this one, the complaints and E12. So this one is what we're going to be talking about next. So this is just removing it here, showing that it's removed there. And I believe that's the end. I think there's a small change at the end here.
Appeal policy is the same?
Yeah, appeal policy remains the same because it can stand on its own. And I think we had a small change at the end. Yes, we had a change in procedure for insurance policy, and that was to reflect our actual procedures, and just that accident reports should be submitted to the executive director by email and copied to the technical director. So that's for all accident complaints.
But that's a procedure, so that was passed by the board. Yeah.
But just to let you know.
I think maybe you should go over E12.
Why don't, yeah, and then we do
before, because it's hard to accept one that is half empty.
Yeah.
But to speak of them separately is a good idea.
Okay. So E12 is the complaints and discipline policy. This policy was actually provided to us by Speed Skating Canada and was developed by Sport Law. We have also gone through, updated it in terms of our requirements for our funders and for being part of sport in BC, so that we're naming the BC Universal Code of Conduct rather than just the Universal Code of Conduct for the prevention of maltreatment in sport. You'll note here that it does, this is basically a really handy flow chart on just how complaints are processed and how they move through the system. I'll just do a quick information here that there are two types of complaints. For national team members or national body people, they go through the UCCMS, so through the Speed Skating Canada process, and go through the Office of the Sport Integrity Commissioner, whereas all of our complaints will go through our independent third party through the Speak Up line. So that's the flow chart on there. As you won't see anything highlighted in here because the whole thing is new policy, which I hope you had the chance to read, but it goes through just how this aligns with Speed Skating Canada. Couple things of note. You will see later we have there are some changes to our privacy policy as well, because there is being that aligned, there is the opportunity, there is the possibility that information that is in BC could be shared up to Speed Skating Canada in terms of if there is a complaint and we need to share that information. The procedure here is all in there of how to file a complaint, how the complaints are evaluated, talks some confidentiality. How complaints are managed in terms of, so managing complaint, there's basically two, similar to our old process. It's whether it's a minor complaint or a major complaint. Minor complaints can be handled in-house, and we can handle them through arbitration or through a dispute resolution process or through meetings, or depending on the severity of the issue. If it is a major complaint, the major complaints are handled externally now. They are handled by a case manager and through a formal process. And that's to make sure that we are having a strong legal, that it's handled legally correct. There we go. I don't know if there's any other questions on that, or.
So you have gone through this, to their policy review meeting. Any questions regarding anything in section E12 specifically? Sandy.
I just have a comment, and I know that it's not going to change anything because you're following SSC, but the fact that if there is harassment and you have to, if you're the victim of the harassment, you have to approach that harasser first before any of this happens. That's okay if it's just a little something, but
Mm-hmm.
but if it's a little something, you're probably not going through all of this. If there's an imbalance of power, say it's a coach and a skater trying to make the
Mm-hmm.
team or whatever, are they going to go to the coach first and say, oh, I'm really uncomfortable with that, when you know that you have
Yep.
a chance to make a team or not make a team, and you've done that? Well, same, I mean, in the workplace we see it or whatever, so no matter what it is, especially when there's an imbalance of power, being the first person, that just knocks you out of the picture completely, and then you have no ground to stand on to
Mm-hmm.
even put forward.
Can we go back to look at the
Yep.
beginning of E?
Just heading
I
back
want to
there,
say,
because it does,
Sandy,
it
that's
does
a
handle that
great
in there.
point. I think it says if, I think the point of that approach, the harasser, is you don't have, for these smaller things, you say you maybe could go to the harasser. You don't have to go to the speak up line if you can deal with it one-on-one. I think it's encouraging that. Respectfully, I understand completely what you're getting at.
But there are more tools in place now than what we had before, such as the speak up line for sport for somebody like that
Yeah.
in a situation.
It's at the top, I think.
Yeah, I'm just.
Does it bring, you don't
Yeah. So it says encourages. So a participant who experiences harassment is encouraged to make it known to the harasser that the behavior is unwelcome, obtrusive, or anywhere contrary to this policy. So if confronting the harasser is not possible, so that would be an imbalance of power, they feel uncomfortable, et cetera, the complainant can contact the Speed Skating Canada Speak Up line. They can also contact board people. So.
So it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, sorry, it doesn't specifically say that in there, but in the complaints and discipline policy, it does say that you can go through the Speak Up line or you can contact a person of trust, and that person can make a complaint on your behalf as well.
Thanks, Sandy. Happy to clarify.
I think that's laid out in the flow chart at the beginning as
Yeah.
well.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, then I will ask for a motion to accept the full Section E of PP1. Gillian from Kamloops, seconded by Shoddy from Fort St. John. All in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carried.
Okay, Section F, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. There's only one small change here, and it's just a rewording of calling this policy access, which we termed it inclusion. And this policy part talks more on access is kind of a little bit vague. This is kind of saying that we're including people with differences.
It's alignment of terminology.
Yeah.
That's it for F.
I think that's it for F.
That's it for F.
Yeah.
Who wants to motion F? Kate, Fort St. John, Rhonda Bottle, Dawson Creek to second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. None opposed. G.
The big alignment in G was just really in procedures, more or less bringing our procedures in line in the document with what we do in terms of, like, for instance, changing newsletters or how information's handled.
Are those policies or procedures?
That's procedure change.
That's a board decision.
Yeah. So those are procedure change at the beginning. There is a policy change though in the privacy.
Okay.
Which is at the end of this, I believe. Okay, yes. So this is within here. So this is personal information may be disclosed pursuant to the complaints and discipline policy. This is specifically aligned with if we have an incident that there is a sanction. So this is a serious incident. It's already gone through a hearing. It's gone through an appeal process. And at the end of that, there's a sanction. And if there's a sanction that is deemed at such a level, that person's name would be publicized within on the Speed Skating Canada website. So this is like
Speed Skating BC website?
And
Speed Skating Canada.
Speed Skating Canada. I'm not sure if we haven't stipulated whether we're going to have that on our website yet. But this does say Speed Skating Canada.
Speed Skating Canada.
Yeah. So within that's within the complaints and discipline policy, and that is that's.
Yeah. Questions, comments? Then I ask for a motion to accept Section G of Policy and Procedure Manual number 1. Terry Lazarick from Vanderhoof, motion. Corey Benny, Fort St. John, second. All in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. All in favor. Motion carried. H.
H is some little changes in terms of name updates that we missed 2 years ago. And also just talking about in this, so there's 2 different types of financial instruments that are done at the end of the year. There's an audit and a financial review. Typically an audit, you can think of it as a review, basically the auditor, the financial, our CPA, looks at our books and trusts that what we're giving them is correct. So that's a financial review. A financial audit is when they come in and they physically look at all your receipts. Obviously, a financial audit has a very high financial burden. So for that reason, Via Sport Gaming and all of our funders do not require a full audit unless they have a feeling that there's impropriety. So this is just updating our wording within here because it did say that we had to do an audit every year, where we don't need an audit every year. We only need a financial review. So it's just updating that wording.
We were on a cycle of an audit every 3 years. So we would audit and then review engagement twice. And because our functioning budget is under half, that was not true.
Or just gaming, everyone, they only require a financial
Just
review.
financial review.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we do have a very strong, and that is because also we have very strong measures in place in terms of our financial policies for review of expenditures, et cetera, et cetera.
Just a question about that. If we ever came across a time where there was a board member who wanted a budget done, or wanted an audit done, is that possible? Can somebody
That is in there.
request? Okay.
Yeah, that is within the policy.
It says audit recommended by the SSBC audit treasurer or funding partner. Just as treasurer.
But that's not a member removed from the treasurer. Like I don't know, if you had a director on board who said, you know what?
Or just a member.
Or a member, I think there's things going on, and can we go through a process of requesting a financial audit?
I think that would say that within a special resolution as well. You could go through that quote of just doing, in terms of the special resolution, part of the bylaws, you could definitely request that within there. There's nothing in here that says you can't do that. So we could write it in, but that might be one. But you could definitely do it through just doing, there's a process within, within the bylaws, members can bring forward a special resolution if they have a 1/3, there's steps in there that they have to take.
You would have to have a certain amount of people behind you to do it.
Yeah.
That's, as brought up, that's a very expensive thing to do, sometimes absolutely necessary. But good governance, you have to think both sides of the coin. You can't just have someone say, I think you need to spend $30,000 to review your books, and they're just...
But just so everyone's familiar, we have a bookkeeper who does day-to-day transactions. It's reviewed by Valerie Linton. It's reviewed in consultation and sometimes independently with me as treasurer. And then we have the finance committee as well.
And then we have the board.
And then it goes to the board, and then after that, it goes to the accountant. So the measures are there in place. The biggest change that we made there was that the treasurer who previously may have had access to the finances could not pass on the review of the finances, which we put in place last year.
Yeah, the treasurer does not pass the review of the finances, nor is he assigning authority.
So he's completely independent. I think that, in terms of procedures, this is just in terms of we don't have a safe or secure, and we don't have an association office anymore, so this is changing of where paper copies are kept, and it also changes how our budgeting process. These are procedures, just updating our procedures within the manual. In terms of the change here on policy of travel expenses, we're recommending a change of the per diem to go up to $60 per day, which includes a $15 for breakfast, $15 for lunch, and $30 for dinner. The mileage would remain same at 45 cents. And then it's also just changing some procedures within how travel expenses are submitted. In terms of delegates to Speed Skating Canada's AGM, there's some update of name changes and changes to reflect current practice of just who's going and can go. And just basically cleaning up wording on those. The other change was to remove accommodation being based on 2 people sharing. 2 people can share if they like, but there's no mandatory accommodation is based on single occupancy unless there's consent between the 2 people to share. So you can still share if you want to, if it's your best friend or your husband or wife, but we're not going to say you have to share with someone you don't know, which is aligned with Safe Sport. Change of wording. This in H7, which is the people attending this board meeting, wanted to have some clarity here just in terms of board and committee members who would be attending. And we removed staff because staff, basically, if staff are attending, they're attending because they're working there. They're not being appointed or anything. They're working, and then they would be covered under
their work contract.
Their work
basically.
contract and the travel policy that goes with that. Also changing the time. So this is a tricky one. So one of the things that we've been having trouble with is we have our budget passed in March, but that was usually, the budget is usually passed after the 90-day mark of when we have to give the travel allowance for this event. So it was hard to sort of say, yes, we're going to pay that much, but then we didn't know, we didn't have an approved budget yet. So we had horse before the cart. Horse before the cart. So we wanted to make sure we changed that to 60 days rather than 90 days so that we were actually giving figures and acting fiscally responsible.
It's just a procedural change.
Just the updates, and I think that is it, if I'm not mistaken.
Occupancy and per diem, that was a big one.
Yeah.
Any questions on
That's
H? Nope. Motion to accept H as presented. Gillian motions, Shoddy second. All in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carried. Aye.
Aye. Okay, so this name change again, procedures and planning and the way we do our planning has changed over the years. How we do the yearly planning is we form an operational planning a group, which is comprised of a member of each of the 4 standing committees. So athlete development, coach development, sport development, and officials development. Those 4 plus myself, Chris as technical director, and 1 or 2 representatives from the board. We get together, we start our planning in December to January. Typically January is when we really put our heads down and we look at the season and start the planning for the upcoming season. From that comes budgeting, et cetera, et cetera. That process is typically done by the end of February, beginning of March, so that we can have budgets in place. So this is just reflecting that change on how the planning goes. And it also makes the stipulation that our operational plan is in alignment with our strategic plan, so that's putting it in there. And it also talks about operating plan key performance indicators will be presented to the board and updated to the board on a regular basis. Also, so that's more changes just in terms of our changes in procedures to reflect our actual procedure.
What we're actually doing. Any questions on H? I. Any questions on I? Motion to accept I as presented. Emily. And seconded by you, Trevor. You're Trevor. Yep. All in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carried. Moving on to terms of reference.
Do you want to talk a little on that one?
I can. Do you have it in front of you?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. Just do you want to talk the overall first?
Yeah. So terms of reference, we went through the terms of reference with the governance committee, the board, and then each of the committees back to the board and then to the membership. So these have been gone through several times. Moving through the changes, trying to represent how we're actually doing business. So the updated version of the Sport Development Committee still has the same makeup, still 4 members, member of SSBC staff. We have this on each one of our standing committees, if you could just leave it there for a second.
Yep.
If an SSBC member is appointed to Speed Skating Canada's Sport Development Advisory Council, Speed Skating Canada, and Chris, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, used to have independent committees similar to the way we have now, coaches, athletes, officials in sport development, and they're now just one committee working in advisory capacity. So, you know, we're saying if there is somebody, an example of that is Stu. Is that correct? Stu Gibbs is on SSC's Sport Development Committee Advisory Council. So he sits as an ex officio member on ODC. So if we had somebody in that capacity doing sport development, they would be very welcome on our committee. So that is there in that capacity. And their responsibilities, similar to before, just cleaned up some language, submitting a report to the AGM and in alignment with our operational planning process now, participating in the annual operational planning, as Valerie mentioned. That's sport development. If you want to, some of them have specific things. Coaching development. One thing that was added here, something that had been in the officials development pathway before, and we'll see when we get there, is that they're saying you don't have to be of a certain officiating level to be on the ODC. This was included now. Committee members can be of any coaching level to be on CDC. That allows for some breadth and depth of knowledge on there and passing, and it allows for some succession planning. Technical director sits on this committee in advisory capacity, and again, the Sport Development Council, advising on preparation of bulletins, coaches, education. That's, yeah, most of that is carried over from before, that has been there. Which one do we have next? Athlete development, 4 members again. We do a skater rep. We haven't had a skater rep on ADC in a while. I'd like to, as a nominating committee for next year, work at that and fill that position and have some clarity around the role of that, but that is still there. This is a long-standing item on ADC. No 2 members from the committee shall be from the same club. So that is just a carryover from before. Again, being part of the selection bulletins and understanding bringing their experience for the impact of athletes, awards. Same athlete.
Oops, sorry.
No, that's fine. Go back and then go down to officials. Again, before the officials development committee listed officiating levels specifically, we've made the language more general, as in CDC. Committee members may be of any certification or of any certified official's position. Yeah, so those are the changes there. We've done a lot of work with ODC to come up with this list, representing the way they work. I think that's the end, Val.
That is.
Any questions on the standing committee terms of reference? That is the current policy, yes. I don't know the background to that, and yeah, no. Yeah, that is the current policy. Any questions? Then I'd ask for a motion to accept the standing committee terms of reference as presented. Alana from Kamloops and Shadi from Fort St. John, all in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carried. I think then, Val, I'm gonna do the next 5 together.
Okay.
And do one motion because they're small. I think we can go through these. So those of you who came to my table yesterday, the Risk Management Committee is a committee that we have moved from an operating committee to a standing committee of the board. As says in our policies, we need to have a terms of reference before we begin work. So we are going to begin work. Here are our terms of reference. The mandate of the Risk Management Committee is to advise the SSC Board of Directors on matters of risk as it pertains to operations, finance, safe sport in any area impacted by the work of Speedskating BC. So we have the composition of the board of the committee, meetings, reporting. This is something that we haven't been doing quite consistently, but is quite important, is the keeping of minutes, and keeping of minutes in a central location. So that is something that's on every committee. And then reporting at the bottom. Sorry, that's fine. There, so that's risk management. Any questions on risk management? Next one, records.
Can I ask you a question? Sorry.
Of course.
When we were looking at that other document
They're on the operating committees. They should be on the far side of the, can you pull, look at PB.
Section 1.
This is A.
Like when you went through.
Yeah, should be on the far right. Awards, competition, records.
Right, but is there like a list of, like we just went through, Shadi just asked the question about not having 2 members from the same club on, there was like a list of criteria and policy and is there that for the records committee and the awards committee?
Yeah. I'm about to do records right now. Records, so I did risk management. Oh, you did risk management, yeah.
No, and we're jumping through, and I'm like, did I miss that?
No, I'm sorry. So I did the terms of the committee terms of reference, and then we're gonna do records. Awards is not updated this year. Because, as we talked about,
we know.
The awards need to have a bit of an overhaul. So my hope is this year, I didn't want to rewrite them without knowing who's going to be doing the work without that kind of consultation. And so awards is the big one for next year. I'm about to go over the records committee, and then I'll be going over nomination, competitions, and governance, and financial committee as well. So this is the records committee. It's a smaller committee made up of 2. Is this the current? Yep. Updated. Perfect. Made up of 2 people. Staff member based on the committee advisory capacity. Committee will accept applications for BC records in alignment with BC data categories, advise awards committee, and will meet as required throughout the year. So there is no requirement. Trish.
I just have a question, is R&D records up to date at all? 'Cause
The answer is no, Trish.
yes.
This committee has been making. Oh, no, Chris about.
And we update them at the end of every year. If there's no committee, then the staff do it. So they're updated as of the end of last year, and then this year, now that the season is over, that'll be a task for the next month or so. So yes, we keep the records up to date.
And they're easy to
Sorry,
find.
Chris.
Yeah, they're in the awards page on the website, the awards and recognition, because they're part of awards and recognition.
I apologize for that, Chris. I guess it was more in terms we haven't had somebody on the records committee in a while. Thank you for your work.
Actually, only 2 years ago, Natalie was on the records committee and doing the records.
Thanks, Dave.
Do we actually keep an update of every skater's PBs?
Yes. We have a database.
And is that easily accessible too?
Yes, also on the website.
And where's that on the website? Sorry.
Under the events, there's
I think we'll show you what that is. Okay, you're welcome. So the nomination committee, no more questions on records. Nomination committee, the mandate of the nomination committee is to review the qualifications and prepare nominees for elections for the board and committee positions. And they will also recommend appointments where vacancies exist. So we have the composition. This is an important part. The committee chair shall be a member of the Speed Skating Canada board who is neither up for election at the coming AGM nor is in a conflict of interest with a member seeking election. So that is important. So if there's any questions, meet as required. Any questions on nominations? We should have finance, governance, and competition committee left. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
You do mean a member of the Speedskate BC board?
What did I say?
Speedskate Canada.
I meant BC. Does it say BC on the thing?
It does.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You thought I wasn't paying attention.
Oh, wait. Sorry, which one are we on? We're on
Yeah.
competitions committee.
Yeah, and any one of them is fine. Okay, competitions committee, go to the updated version. Yep. It is an
Question.
Go ahead.
It says up to a maximum of 2 other persons, so that could be any other member of Speed Skating BC?
Are we on competitions?
Competitions.
It would be. Can I see? Rivers and standing committees, athlete coaching, official sport development up to a maximum of 2 other SCC members. It would be if somebody had special experience could be a strong input. So again, reference to Speed Skating Canada Sport Advisory, Sport Development Advisory Council. And again, the committee will review and advise on the Speed Skating BC's annual competition bulletin. And the simple meetings and reporting for as in other committees. So that's competitions. Any questions? Not a change in the role, just more of a clarification of the language. Okay, governance. And I see Valerie, finance isn't on that list, but we need to review the finance committee's terms of reference as well. So this is the governance committee. So the mandate of the governance committee is to advise the Speed Skating Canada Board of revisions, updates, issues related to Speed Skating BC's bylaws, policies, and procedures. The governance committee works on a policy review plan where all policies are reviewed biannually. We managed to finish that this year, which is good. Some of the policies were 13 years old, but we got through them all. Now, moving forward will be a lot easier. Again, meetings and reporting as the same with all other committees. Any questions on governance?
Right,
and we just need to find the...
I'll go tracking down finance.
Tracking down finance.
Sorry.
The Finance Committee is the same. The terms of reference for the Finance Committee is to advise the board on changes in budget. The chair of the Finance Committee is the treasurer. It is also made up the president, vice president, and executive director. I guess we'll see when it comes up. But I'm going to be honest with you.
This doesn't look like the right one, though. It doesn't have your updates on it. Were there changes, though?
President, vice president, treasurer, or their designates, and the executive director. So the committee is made up of 4 people. So president, vice president, and treasurer.
This is the right one.
Or their designate. So if it could be a different member instead of one of those. And annually, after each AGM, we put together the finance committee. We review annually the association's finances, communication with the auditor. And the same with meetings and reporting, same as other committees. Any questions about the finance committee? Janet.
When you say designates of members, do you mean designate from the board, like one
Nope.
of the directors, or anybody outside of that?
Yeah,
Okay.
members is members. If it was the board, we would say the board. Any questions? Okay, then I will ask to have a motion to accept. I'm going to say this, Carol, because you're doing this. The risk management, records, nominations, committee, competitions, governance, and finance committees. I'll write those down for you. Committees, terms of reference as presented. James from Prince George to motion. Kate from Fort St. John to second. All in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carried. That's policies, thank you. Moving on to elections, Scott. You need.
Where'd it go? I had a microphone here. I misplaced it.
It's on
There we go. Oh, this is fine. This ought to work just good. Can anybody hear me? I think we're good. Okay, welcome to the elections part of this meeting. I'll go over a bit of the rules first. In order to be a candidate for the election, you must be nominated by 2 member clubs or a member of the board, maybe one of those positions. The nominee must consent to being nominated, which is a good thing. Must be a member in good standing of a member club or an individual member in good standing, or be or become an individual member in good standing within 10 days after being elected, and not be disqualified from being a director of a company under Section 124 of the Business Corporations Act. The way we're going to do this is I will announce the position we're voting for. I will announce any nominations that have been received for the position. I will ask for nominations from the floor. If there are nominations from the floor, we'll ask the person to tell us a little bit about themselves. The person for whom we have already received nominations will be asked to say a few words, if they wish. Then I'll put the position forward to a vote. If there's one person running, then no vote is required. They win by acclamation. The voting process is much the same as described earlier. Each club has assigned delegates, and after the votes are submitted, the scrutineers will review the ballots. Are there any questions? This is the exciting part. The first position is president. It is a 2-year position. We have one nomination, that is the incumbent, Carrie Ray. Are there any nominations from the floor? Are there any nominations from the floor? Are there any nominations from the floor? Okay. No nominations from the floor. No vote is required. Do you want to say a few words about yourself? Carrie Ray is the president for the next 2 years. Congratulations, Carrie. Well, that was a nail biter. Our next position is for secretary. This is a 2-year position. We currently have one nomination for the position, Janet Lacusta. The treasurer works with the executive. Thank you. That's payback, isn't it? The treasurer works with the executive. Hey, I'm gonna get a new script writer, I'll tell you. The secretary works with the executive director and sport administrator to ensure that we are all meeting our fiduciary responsibilities as an organization. And
no, it's fine. It's fine. I think you should just leave it.
I'm going to leave that alone and hire a new scriptwriter. This is terrible. I should have read it ahead of time. It caught me. We have one nomination. We have Janet Lacusta. Do we have any nominations from the floor for secretary? Do we have any nominations from the floor for secretary? Do we have any nominations from the floor for secretary? No vote is required. Janet Lacusta, you're the secretary for the next 2 years. Congratulations. I just have to check to make sure no one snuck up there. We do have. Director at large. Let me just glance at this first. Okay. There are three director at large positions available. Originally, we posted that there were 2. We're required to have 3 to 5 directors at large. We may have 5. So it was changed from 2 positions to 3 positions. We have
3 for 2 and 1 for 1.
3 for 2. Okay. So we're going to do the 2-year positions first. Mm-hmm. We have nominated Dan Bastianson, Carol Dugan, Alana Lawhead. Did I pronounce that right? I got something right today. Do we have any nominations from the floor? Do we have any nominations from the floor? Do we have any nominations from the floor? I repeat that because I got that one right. Seeing that we have no nominations from the floor, and we have 3 nominations, no vote for 3 positions, we have no vote required. Congratulations, Dan, Carol, and Alana. The next position is Director at Large, a 1-year position. We have one position for 1 year.
One
We-
nomination.
Sorry?
We have one nomination.
Yes, enough coaching. We have one nomination, that's Rich Matthews. Do we have any nominations from the floor? Do we have any nominations from the floor? Director at large. Do we have any nominations from the floor? Hearing none, we have one person for one position. Congratulations. Welcome to the board. Moving on to Athlete Development Committee. Thank you. Our next election is for Athlete Development Committee. It's a 2-year term. We have 2 positions, and we have 2 nominations. It's a 2-year position. We have Grace Cheng and Karen Ben. For Athlete Development Committee, do we have any nominations from the floor? Athlete Development Committee, any nominations from the floor? Do we have any nominations from the floor? We have 2 nominations for 2 positions. No vote required. Congratulations, Grace and Karen. Could I get you to grab the sheets off the side that we had put up? Not that one.
Oh, just need the, around the corner.
The hidden ones, not the hidden ones.
Yeah.
That
those-
one.
Yeah, and the one that you've got right now.
Perfect. No, those ones I can see.
And there's records behind you. We can see them.
Yeah.
Yeah, records.
Okay.
It's
And I
fine.
can't see Coach, but that we're okay. Coach Development Committee. 2-year position. We have 2 positions for a 2-year term for Coach Development Committee. The CDC is a committee that works closely with the technical director in all matters of coach development. This is a great position for a coach who's interested in development opportunities for our incredible coaching staff across the province. Do we have any nominations for CDC from the floor? Do we have any nominations for CDC from the floor? Do we have any nominations for CDC from the floor? Hearing none, that position goes vacant. Officials Development Committee. We have 2 positions, and they're both 2-year positions. Yeah. We have 3 nominations. We have David Wagner, Amanda Leonard, Catherine North. I can't read either. And that's it. David, do you want to say something about yourself? Don't have to. Oh, I was. Amanda? Catherine?
Sure.
There you go.
So for those of you that don't know me, I'm from Fort St. John. I hold a few hats up there, but the one that's been progressing a little bit more is my meet coordinating hat. I also sit on our club ODC, working closely with kind of the development officials through that role. So I have sat on the coaching development committee for several years, I think a couple of 2-year terms now. Really enjoyed that. But just as what I've been doing more has changed, I feel that this is a better fit for me. So time for something new. But that's what I do. Organize events.
Party planning.
Well, it looks like we're going to have an election. So which color do we use?
So you're going to use your neon green sheet of paper. You do need to write on each of the ballot books that you have. You're going to enter 2 names onto each neon green sheet of paper. 2 candidates out of 3 to fill the 3 positions. So then each ballot book you need to write on. You need to write 2 names. Well, you don't need to. You could obviously abstain, but 2 names on the same sheet of paper. When you are done, please fold your piece of paper in half and come and deliver it to Valerie and I will be counting. Question, can you on one of your ballot books write candidate A and B and on the next one write candidate B and C? Yes, so your phones, you can do what you want with them.
Hang on a second. Are you going up? Do you mind?
No, not at all.
Thank you. Sorry? Oh, you don't? Oh, okay. Sport development. Can I get you to move officials development back here to directors at large? The officials development over there? Thanks.
Over here if you need to write it.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, I can see it. So after everyone's cast their ballot, while the scrutineers do their work, we'll move on to the next committee. Sorry?
What about the nail button?
Well, that's happening just as we go. Has everyone had a chance to deliver their ballot?
Any further ballots to be handed in?
Any more ballots?
Yeah.
Well, oh, yes. While we wait for Richmond. Get a grip on your club. Pardon? Get a grip on your club. She was sitting there looking at us, not doing it. What? What's he doing? What do you mean? Well, rather than filling out the ballot.
No, she's counting the ballots.
No, she's filling them out.
For what?
Now,
She has 6, right?
on the 3rd warning, she
She's
goes,
only done
"Oh
one."
my." She forgot.
Oh, so what do
Okay. Oh, sit down.
Oh, she's got to do 6
Okay.
different votes. Yes.
Then you come to the right place.
Can you actually be on more than one committee at a time?
I don't think you. Handed in their ballots. Going once, going twice, going thrice. Our next position is for Sport Development Committee. The SDC is a committee that works closely with the Executive Director and sport administrator in the promotion of speed skating in BC. This committee will be actively involved in the communication, planning, marketing, branding, and sponsorship. This is a great position for anyone with a marketing flair, experience in communication, or even simply a passion for speed skating. It's an Olympic year. This is a real fun committee to be part of. We have 2 positions available for this election, and they are 2-year terms. We currently have no positions for Sport Development Committee. Are there any nominations from the floor? Oh, no. There you go. Do we need the seconders from the floor? Yeah, so you second both of them?
Can I second from the same club?
You can.
I'll second.
Okay, so we've got seconded. Do you want to say a little something about yourself?
Sure. Most of you know me. I usually wear a black jacket and I'm on the ice, but and a helmet. Yeah, I generally try to. So
Could we have the room, please?
I joined the sport as a master in my 40s. It was just a total chance discovery of this speed skating club in Burnaby that just said, "Do you love to go fast?" And I was like, "Ooh, that looks like fun." So it's been about a decade now involved in the sport. I'm a skater, I'm a coach, I'm a parent of a skater, and now a 3D referee. So I have a lot of different fingers in the speed skating pie, and I have a business that allows me to spend a ton of time in the winter on things like speed skating, so the refereeing and the coaching and so forth. Summer I'm a little busier, but so I saw a big hole there, and I think I can help fill some of that hole. So, but yeah, most of you we've had conversations, I'm sure. So, but I'm accessible, I'm available. You can get in touch with me at any time about virtually anything. So, happy to
About
help.
that disqualification that happened.
I remember it.
Disqualification, you should not talk about my Natalie.
Very similarly, I'm also a ref, so you usually see me with the helmet on and all black. I joined skating when I was 5, so this year it'll be 30 years involved with speed skating in BC. So, been around a long time. Every aspect of the sport. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you both. And I still have to ask for, are there any more nominations from the floor? Are there any more nominations from the floor? Congratulations, Andrea McIntosh and Amanda Leonard. Thank you. That was. Now we have Sport Development Committee 1-year position. Same as the last one, only a shorter term. We have no nominations. Now you see how much fun it's going to be, folks. Don't miss your chance. Do we have any nominations from the floor? Do we have any nominations from the floor? Oh, don't make these people work alone. Do we have any nominations from the floor? The referees need a referee. Yeah. Okay, hearing none, that position goes vacant. Okay, Awards Committee. We have 2 positions for 2 years. The Awards Committee is responsible for ensuring we live up to our stated value that we believe that recognition is a cornerstone of all volunteering organizations, and as such is an integral part of the association. The committee meets on an annual basis. We have 2 positions for Awards Committee, 2-year position. We have no nominations. Do we have any nominations from the floor? Awards Committee. Do we have any nominations from the floor for Awards Committee? Do we have any nominations from the floor for Awards Committee? Hearing none, that position goes vacant. Records Committee. Where's the board? Records Committee. Oh, yes. Records Committee. For a 2-year term, the Records Committee is responsible for tracking our BC records and ensuring that they are recorded. This is a wonderful opportunity for someone who loves watching numbers and celebrating the success of our skaters. We have 2 positions available on a 2-year term. We have 1 nomination, Andrea McIntosh. Do you want to say anything about yourself, or are you going to stand on the...
I like Excel, I like databases, I like numbers. I have a strong background in regulatory records management, so again, happy to help.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I nominate her for 2 years.
I'm there.
Thank you. Do we have any nominations from the floor for Records Committee? Records Committee, do we have any nominations from the floor? Records Committee, do we have any nominations from the floor? Hearing none, congratulations, Andrea. I'm going to take this opportunity, because I've got the mic, to thank the folks here that have put their names forward to do something for the board or for the committees. It's at times a difficult position to be on the board. A lot of difficult decisions do come across. We have a lot of fun, but it's critically important to have a board that's well represented, that represents all the regions and various schools of thought. It's important that board members don't always agree. And certainly Alex and I don't always agree. And that's critically important, because that makes both of us rethink our position. That makes the entire board rethink their position. And we've been fortunate this past year that the board has functioned, in my estimation, very well. And we've had some good discussions, and we haven't always agreed. I'd like to thank the people that put their names ahead for the boards and for the committees, because that's critical to running this organization. That's critical to making this organization successful, and that's critical to the skaters. The people that are going around in circles on the ice, it's very important that they have the back room to support their, not only their activities, but their achievements. So thanks again for everyone that put their name forward, and I'm looking forward to this year. And I think this is an excellent time for a quick bathroom break. If we could take 10... We're ready? We don't need a bathroom break. If we could count on the scrutineers.
Oh, I guess the scrutineer. Are you guys?
Well, we need a bathroom break then.
Oh, yeah, bathroom break, sorry.
Let's take a 10-minute bathroom break and be back here at 5 minutes after 11.
Which one was that? Can I see the one that was FT, one of the EMT?
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
You know, this is sad. But
The committee that we had that we got nobody on.
Lots of them.
No, still waiting.
Sports.
Keep in mind that as a board, we still have the
Sports and athletes.
Oh, sports and okay, it was right in front of my nose, that was the one.
And awards.
Yes.
okay, the 2-tier term, we got it. Okay.
But we got existing member on awards, don't we, from last term?
We've got somebody still on it.
Yeah.
competitions assigned late. I think competitions is a weird one.
I guess it kind of depends.
Assigned late.
I'll be on the road by noon. I mean, Yes, we are. Sorry, what was that question? Are we going to get started again? Yes, yes, we are. Thank you. Is everybody ready? Before we go any further, to be clear, the election process for the CDC has been closed. We have had a volunteer from the floor, so what will happen is that person will be appointed for a one-year term at the board meeting should the board approve of their nomination to the position for CDC. And that volunteer was Diane Raymond. Thank you. So at the board's next meeting, they'll consider.
5 minutes.
Yes, they'll consider your volunteering, and thank you very much. Now, the moment we've all been waiting for the position of, what was it, ODC, right?
Yes.
ODC. It was a very close race. David, 41 votes. Amanda, 48. Kate, 53. Congratulations, Kate and Amanda. Very tight race. I would like a motion to destroy the ballots. May I have a motion to destroy the ballots?
It's Rich.
Rich? Second. Who was second?
Gillian, I think.
Gillian was second. All in favor of destroying the ballots? Opposed? Motion carried. And that's it for the election. Thank you very much. Back over to the new president.
Okay. I'll just speak into this.
Yeah, use that. It's good.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. That is actually the end of our agenda today. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. And if there's no further business, I will ask Valerie. Yes, would you like to do that? Or me? Or Alex, would you like to do? Okay, I will, want me to? Okay. Next year's AGM will be held in Richmond. We have a host already. So I would like to thank the Richmond Club for stepping forward. Do we have a weekend for that as well still already?
Yeah, and we will work it.
Okay, so this weekend.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. We can talk more on that after, but the AGM will be in Richmond next year. Thank you.
And we look forward to welcoming everyone, and we hope that you can all make it and bring more representatives, please. Make it a long weekend for them as well. Extend it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming. I just need one motion to adjourn. Rhonda Bottle, Dawson Creek. I'm going to use it. Ready? Meeting adjourned.